So in this video, we're going to talk about how to do time lapses using the Canon G7X Mark III. Time lapse, meaning really fast. One of the things I've been wanting to know, because what I would normally do whenever I drive or unpack and whatnot, is I would use a GoPro. But then I figured, why not just try checking out to see if the G7X could do some time lapsing. So let me just walk you through that whole process. First, turn on your camera, press that little button up top, Canon logo comes on, and once you're there, what you got to do is simply hit the menu button. Now you'll notice there's a bunch of different menu options. You got your camera, you got your play button, you got Wi-Fi, whatnot, right? So from the camera button, from the camera menu, I want you to go to menu number 2. You'll see an option that says time lapse movie. The default is that it's going to be disabled, right? So what you do is click on it, tell it to go to scene 1, 2, or 3. Now the difference between all of these 3 is the speed in which the time lapse goes. So typically in scene 1, you have interval shots every 2 seconds. It'll take 300 shots, therefore it's going to end up being like a 10-second shot right here. Honestly, you really don't need more than 10 seconds, unless you're trying to do like a really long type of time lapse of like a, I don't know, like a daylight passing kind of thing. But also you can set the recording size. I just set it to 4K. And then once you have your settings set up, then we can proceed. The difference between scene 1, 2, and 3 is simply like in this case your lowest number is 2, right? Whereas if you go to scene 2, your lowest number is 5 every 5 seconds, and if you go to scene 3, your lowest number is 15. But you can decrease it. Actually, 11 is the lowest number, but you can go even higher. But at the end of the day, it's just a matter of like how long you want your shot to be. So I typically go with scene 1. Once you've got your, once you've selected it, it's going to take a shot every 2 seconds. Now, one of the things that I would recommend, so you'll get this thing that it says configure exposure settings, yada yada yada. Click OK. Now, once you've got your shot framed up, there's a couple of things that you want to pay attention to, right? Once you got your aperture, right? You can set your aperture to be as low or high, depending on your setting and depending on the kind of depth of field that you want to get. And then once you set the appropriate settings for that, so when it comes to your aperture, one of the things that you just want to just kind of keep in mind as you're doing your setup is that so normally when you're shooting video, let's say you're shooting 24 frames a second or 30 frames a second or 60 frames a second, you want your shutter speed to be double that. But if you're going in the opposite direction, meaning you're going to go time lapse, you're going to go hyperlapse, you want your shutter speed to be significantly slower. Otherwise, your time lapse footage is going to come out looking a little jagged. And so now, before on cameras like a GoPro and things like that, you don't typically have that option unless you go into pro mode, but even then your options are limited. But on the G7X, you have the ability to adjust your shutter speed. And so the sweet spot that I found, especially, again, it depends on how fast of presentation you're trying to do, but if you're doing just like, you know, just like what I was doing here, we're setting up the stuff. Now you'll notice that when I started my my first clips, as I opened up this video, the first clips were a little, you know, skippy, jaggedy, jarring a little bit because I didn't have the appropriate shutter speed. In fact, the shutter speed was really fast, and so in fact it was the same idea. Like it was what's it called? It was double the actual normal frame rate, but when it renders out, it's just like whoa, super fast. One of the things I like to do is I like to set the speed to be such that I get a trailing effect, right? So kind of like a motion blur kind of thing. And this is one of the things that I found out is if you're going to do every 2 seconds, having your shutter speed at 1/8 seems to be like the sweet spot. Now again, you can change this around and you can also set your ISO to be auto or whatever, You can set, in this case, because the shutter speed is really fast, it's everything's going to be really bright. But if you but one of the other ways that you could kind of move things, or in terms of darken things up, is increase your what's it called, your aperture, or decrease your aperture, so that way you're able to see less. And then now you can adjust your ISO settings. Again, whatever the settings that you want to do, you set those. Once you got everything up, you framed your shot, all you have to do then is press the record button. Once your record button is set, it's going to tell you, this is basically setting it up for you. Do you want to record, or do you not want to record? And if you do want to record, you press and hold, and boom, it's going to start recording. It's going to start flicking back and forth, back and forth. And so that's basically it, guys. And either you can let it, so you'll see this number here, 294, 293, 292, and so that number is going to be counting down until it's got all of your time-lapse options set up. And then, or if you want to end it sooner, you can just press the record button and boom, it's going to finish. And then when you end up with a thing, it's going to play back. Now obviously we didn't record much here, but like this is one of the time lapses that I just did in terms of just kind of unloading all of the gear that I had with me. But like the last clip that I showed you, that was actually a shutter speed of 1/8 for a time lapse, where I'm doing it, with what's it called? 1 over every 2 seconds, it's taking a photo and then it's compiling it together. So one of the things I like about time lapses is that they can be short, they can be sweet, they can be under a minute. Like I said, 10-second clips, you can put that together using Quick or whatever. And the great thing about the G7X is that it's small enough for you to get one of those GoPro adapters. You put it on your car and boom, it's mounted and you're good to go. So that's it, guys. Hope you had fun. And I know I saw a comment, a couple people posted in a previous video about how to do appropriately slow motion video. I'll probably cover that in a later clip, but anyway, hope you guys found this a benefit. I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching, and remember to subscribe, like, and share with your friends, and I'll see you soon.